Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Trevor with Maker Experiment, and today I'm going to try to make a leather debossing die. I'm going to attempt to do this out of acrylic, and I'm going to engrave it pretty deep, so about 3 or 4 passes, just to make sure I get enough depth for the debossing process. I'm going to head over to the laser, I'm going to machine it out, and then we're going to try to deboss some leather. So let's get to it. I machined out 2 different styles of debossing dies. The first one is actually my own logo, which I've kind of already cleaned up, but it's right here. I'll show it to you a little bit more in a second. And then the other one is for my friend Ethan Carter. So his is just his logo. And the trick to this is that you actually have to engrave them backwards. So you'll see here that Ethan's logo is actually backwards. Mine is also backwards, so that when the debossing process happens, the logo is in the correct orientation on the leather. Now that they're machined, I'm going to go ahead, clean them up, and get them ready to do the debossing process on the leather. So to test these out, I have 3 different pieces of leather. I have kind of a medium dark one, I have a lighter one, and then the challenge is going to be the black one. I'm going to get the face of the leather wet so that I can try the debossing process. Hopefully making it wet will enable the die to work a little bit better. I'm also going to just glue it up in between a couple of boards with some clamps because I don't have any kind of press. So let's go ahead and try this out and see what happens. The first try didn't turn out the best. You can kind of see it here. There's a couple things that I took away from this. The first is the edge of the acrylic die. So the edge right here, it's kind of rough because of the cut line and the engraving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shave off that cut line, see if that improves it. The other thing, the pieces of walnut that I used to clamp it in between, one of them actually snapped during the clamping and it provided uneven pressure, and I think that's why some of this bottom section is not pressed in as much as the top section. But I'm going to pick different pieces of wood, or at least now I can use the smaller pieces and clamp it better, and try this again with my logo. First I'm going to try to trim the edges of mine up, and then I'm going to try the debossing process again and see if this one turns out any better. second try went a lot better than the first try. So as you will remember, this was the first try. So only about half of it actually indented or debossed. And this is the second try. I actually let this one sit for a couple of hours. I had some things to do inside and just left it in the clamps. I'm not sure if it's the amount of time that allowed it to deboss so well, or if it was just the fact that I had better pressure and it was a cleaner ring around the edge. For the last one, I'm actually going to use Ethan's die that I made, and I'm only going to let that one sit for a few minutes just to see if it's the time or the pressure. So I'm going to make sure that it has the equal pressure. I'm going to make sure that it's clamped well on all the sides, and hopefully that one will do a lot better and in a lot shorter amount of time. So time for round 3. I just took the last one out of the clamps, and as you can see, it came out really well. So it must not have been the amount of time that I let it sit in there. It must have been the modifications that I made to each of the dies. So again, I trimmed off the edge. It was just a little sharp. I could probably do this in the laser cutting file. Other than that modification and cleaning the dies up in general, both of them did really well. And I'm pretty pleased with how everything turned out. I might make a few more of these dies in the future for future videos, as well as personal projects, because sometimes the debossed look actually looks better than the engraving, and vice versa. Sometimes engraving looks better. So I think having both options is going to be a great thing to have. That's going to do it for this video. If you like what you saw, drop a like on the video, leave a comment below which leather color was your favorite, as well as which die do you think worked better. I'm going to try to make some more of these in the future, different styles of dies, different sizes, and see how they perform and what I can do with it. If you'd like to follow along with the process and see pictures along the way, check out my Instagram @MakerExperiment. I share things ahead of YouTube videos, sometimes things that I never share on my YouTube videos. So be sure to check that out. Give me a follow on there, and I'll see you in the next video.